Hello, greetings. Today is Sunday on the Gregorian calendar, and it is the day that we sprang forward in time, so to speak. They're still doing daylight savings. So we just moved into daylight savings time, so we're an hour ahead, so to speak. We jumped ahead an hour last night. That doesn't relate to certain states like Arizona, Hawaii, and Alaska. So now we're 3 hours behind Hawaii. I think 2 hours behind Alaska. Maybe it doesn't change. I don't know. And 2 hours behind Arizona. Right? I think. I don't know. I could be wrong. All right. Before I get started. Thanks for being here. Thanks for subscribing. Oh my gosh, I'm almost up to 200 subscribers. That's exciting. So thank you. And may you be favored. May what you are practicing for health and well-being, for a more clear mind, for stronger emotions, for bringing in joy and health, healing, be uplifted, supported, and bring you what you are wanting to manifest. All right, so be it. Okay, so I'll start with that a little bit. Okay, I want to start each of these videos with going over my calculations of the 9-day week calendar. So today on the Gregorian calendar is March 14th, and we're told it's a Sunday. Okay, if I go by the new moon calendar, and I came up with another theory, so we'll check that out, but go by the new moon calendar, yesterday was the new moon. So actually the first day of the new moon was Friday, and then yesterday and today we move into waxing crescent. So we're moving towards a full moon as of today. And then if we go by the energies of the 9 planets, we are in Venus energy. It's so interesting because what I'm noticing is when I listen to other astrologers, and if I go by the energy of the 9-day week calendar and use the 9 planets, it matches. It also matches because I believe Venus is entering into good grief, I just listened to it. Oh, well, we had the new moon in Venus, right? And so what was I thinking about this? So it's just, it feels like it matches. I don't know. Okay. And then tomorrow will be Mars on a Monday, which is very interesting. And so I've been relating everything back to the feminine, period. The planets, the energies. And I think that this is, I've mentioned this before, but I think I also didn't go into it. This is what we're seeing on an outside level. Because I think what's happening is also attack on the feminine, where she's the primary caregiver. Even the energy of the feminine is the primary caregiver. So even if you're a man, you are now having to, so both primary caregivers are having to work with their children in ways they didn't have to before because they were able to rely on schooling and that teaching to give the caregiver a break to be able to do what they need to do to make sure their household is okay. And there was some regulation of social and emotional participation where the kids were concerned, and that's really shifted. And to me, it's challenging people are making it through it. Yet I look at it as a sort of pressure on that feminine energy. And then in politics or in hierarchy situations, we're seeing a lot of feminine rising. They're really pushing this rising of the feminine, and they're also pushing the rising of the brown feminine, which goes back to the Sibyls and the original prophetesses. And that leads me into natural witches. I talked about this a little bit before, or natural magicians. And what I mean by natural, so you can be a natural magician or witch or magical person, fairy energy, dragon energy, tree energy, earth energy, star energy, fire energy, water energy, all sorts of mythical beings type of energy, and all of the animals type of energies. And you can be raised knowing that you are a natural magician, so to speak, or witch or magi. You could also have been raised in what I consider the most recent culture of religion, and notice that there are certain things that you're able to see or do. Dreamers are another one, clairsentient, clairaudient, prophetic, meaning they have dreams that come true, or dreams that kind of, interlude to the future. People who are psychics, right? So you're not raised knowing about these possibilities. You were actually taught that these things did not exist. We're actually somewhat afraid of these, and are now in a situation where you realize, like, no, I can't shift it. This is who I am. This is part of what I do. And now what, right? Because there are a lot of people who may not see where you're coming from, support you. A lot of these things have been taboo, hidden, and even mistaught again through history. Like certain religions have been mistaught. I'm speaking predominantly of the African and what is called slave religion. I've had my theories, and I'm starting to think that there's proof out there that a lot of what we were taught is not true. Yet what we were taught is just misaligned, in that if you look at a lot of the indigenous peoples around the world, the religions match. So I think it's a creation of being connected to the planet. A lot of these tribes, and even the stories of like Christmas and Easter, which is coming up, have to do with magical mushrooms, hallucinogenics, meditation, feasting, giving up certain habits. I mean, these rituals are ancient, and there was a way that we did it that was inherent, connected to the planet and to nature. And so that's a natural witch, where you didn't have any training, but you started noticing certain things would happen at certain times, kind of like Harry Potter, right? Where he's like, what? And so a lot of the messages that I was getting a couple of years ago that I wasn't completely listening to, yeah, it's really stubborn. Okay. Is that so I heard this recently, and it relates. So there's three things she wants me to mention. So the first is, we have been under the spell. Humans are far older than they tell us. Humans and higher beings have been living on this planet and going through this. First of all, they've been on this planet for about 20 trillion years. And for about 3 trillion years, there has been this programming, this reprogramming, this manipulation of the DNA. So we come in with a very high DNA. The programming is what lowers the DNA, because the DNA is so high that you could teach anything, and the brain and the DNA will absorb it. So if we're taught to actually dumb ourselves down, then we will actually naturally dumb ourselves down. But if we are taught that we can fly and we can build pyramids and we can talk to trees and we can manipulate the elements, then we are going to thrive at that. Our brain will create more space to understand more of the space, right? So for 3 trillion years, and the programming started very simply with what we see as the very toxic, narcissistic type of what we call narcissistic energies of sleep deprivation, distraction, and then reprogramming, which came through writing and changing the writing just enough so that it would change the way your brain would look at things. And then they just continued because it worked. And you have group think and group mentality. And it worked because we depended on our communities and we depended on each other. And so that was manipulated. And that's what changed our DNA. Through time, we shrunk ourselves. So we actually became smaller. And what's been happening is this lifting of the veil, so to speak, where the truths are. There's so much more. There's so much more to know. And that's part of being a natural witch. Okay, so this timeline's been going on for a long time. This is where we're in the space of changing it, right? Okay. What are the other 2 things that she wanted me to mention? Oh, okay. So most of the magics that have been taught have also been manipulated, right? There's few magics out there that can override the magics. It's natural magic. It's natural inherent magic, because what creates are brand new spells or brand new prayers or brand new rituals every single moment of the day. And those cannot be competed with. Those are direct lines and direct powers from the planet, from the universe, from the cosmos, from source. They haven't been imbued with the power of many to manipulate the many. So there's this weird backlash of how we've been doing spells. So singing, especially natural singing songs of love and praise that have been around for a long time is also, it still works. What can be imbued in that is new thoughts, new words, new dance moves, new times of day, okay? And that can relate to following the 9-day moon calendar, because the moon has so much energy and force with the planet and women. I mean, imagine the time when people were so in awe of the moon that we would have our own moons. Like, even ourselves were like, wow, how is this? How are we so connected that when there's a full moon, we also start bleeding, right? And then when we make it to so many cycles of the moon, we stop bleeding. And then we become a matriarch or a elder, right? A wise being. And then we would apply this to everything around us because we could see it in nature, okay? So when you yourself, so there's 2 things that we can relate. We can relate some secrecy is something that was taught in the past. So secrecy would be, if you do come up with your own natural spell, you don't tell anybody. You don't write it down either. Okay? you hold it. You hold it in you, and you practice it and see what happens, because it's the new natural magic that is really going to shift things. And it's the new natural magic that isn't about power and control. It's about wanting to break old spells, break old contracts, release cords, and then also an opening of the DNA that was able to receive messages directly from source, the planet, the planets, the cosmos, the stars. Okay. All right. And then the third thing was, maybe that was part of the calendar. Super important, and the numbers and gematria and Hebrew and all of the languages, like, they're all, every breath we take, every thought we have, is a part of source. And I think what's really unique is understanding, like, I remember thinking this a long time ago. This is before I really started looking at the divine as a feminine force. And it was kind of going over like evil and good. And then, you go back to the beginning when God created everything. And then there's this pause. And so of recently, the message was chaos is creation. And chaos is giving birth. Chaos is getting pregnant, right? Having sex. Chaos is laughing. Chaos is crying. Chaos is sitting and finger painting. Chaos is watching a seed bloom. That's slow chaos, right? So chaos is creation. What's happened is, because of the reteaching and the smaller, the shrinking of the DNA and shrinking of the memory of the human capability, or the God spark capability that all beings on this planet have, with the traumas and disconnections, it's difficult to even accept that possibility of how great we are. I certainly find that difficult, knowing that we can live forever, right? Forever. It's gotta be something. And I know, like, the food is different and how we house ourselves. Like, we used to live in earth, and we know that earthing is very healing. So there's something about that, right? We used to sleep directly on the ground, with maybe a natural mat over it, which is extremely healing. So ultimately, I think that that's what we're getting back to, is the healing. So the magic is with the numbers and the planets and the intentions and the practices. And then, sure, I think this is the hard part. Like, to me, when I first started going down this path of spirituality and wanting to really share a lot of the information that I either got from the planet or from direct education, I was I was overzealous about it, super excited and over trusting. And in that, I made a lot of bad choices and caused myself and others a lot of pain, and in ways not intentional, sometimes intentional. And then as we go through like heartache, heartbreak, healing, sure, like I've been drinking. But I've been drinking for a while I was going through that, right? And that's something I know is not good for me. And like, I still smoke cigarettes. I know that's not good for me. And but I want to change it. And so I wanted to speak about that part because it's a little confusing because there's like the drunken monkey that could just be a created story, but I have read stories about ancient gurus who either took a lot of mushrooms or drank a lot of wine or didn't eat any food or only drank water, which would be not eating any food. But there was one I read about, I think it was through Reiki, where one of the gurus had slept in the ground for like 72 years, breathing air through their feet. I could be exaggerating the years, but it was a long time. It wasn't like a couple days. It was years. There's so many stories of these great feats that these masters did while also imbibing in certain, herbs, so to speak. And just recently, the one guru that's like 100 and something years old, and he's been smoking tobacco his whole life. So, I think part of my own narcissistic traits and my own shame was that I couldn't be spiritual and have bad habits. And I actually think that it's more important to be emotionally healthy and accepting and mentally connected to that understanding, because again, I think that a lot of the spells that have happened out there, basically news and mass media, is stories. It's made up. It's Hollywood. And I say Hollywood, I mean it's acting. We're going to find out a lot of this. It's going to be like the Kennedys. It's going to be years later and people are going to find out we were so manipulated and just blatantly lied to, strictly to stir up emotions that cause instant reactions rather than pausing and saying, why am I so angry at this person? Why am I so angry at this person? I'm so angry at this person because I'm feeling, restricted, unheard, unseen, unworthy, not enough, right? We may not even have the words for that. I didn't, and I thought I did. I thought I was very educated in words and such like that. And so that's part of it. Like, we live in a culture where we think we're educated, or we think that somebody might be more educated, or we think we're not educated enough, when all of that is true, in that there is this other education that's happening that we have no clue about, and it has to do with the planets, energies, ley lines, prayer, emotional connection that works, that heals, that shapes and changes. And then there's this other energy of control that is hidden in our own compensation. This is how smart we actually are. Humans are so intelligent that we will compensate in places where the unknown resides. So, it's not completely known what's going on. So we feel good about listening to different stories that tell us this could be what's going on. We say, oh yeah, that's what's going on. How about what happened with Kennedy? How do we look at that now? How about what happened with Malcolm X? How do we look at that now? How about what happened with the slave ships from Africa? How are we looking at that now? So that's why I'm encouraged to be like, okay, this is what I think's going on. I think everything we've been taught is backwards, upside down. So what's the logic? Where are the things that we keep seeing repeating that don't seem to have an agenda? The number 9, the feminine energy that was completely hidden. That's got to be an agenda. Why would you hide it? Why would you oppress women? Why are the most oppressed people around the world? I'll speak on this real quick. The black and white divide. There isn't one. That's another misteaching. There isn't one. That was also created. Isn't it said that anybody could be God or Jesus or the Buddha? Anybody? So, and babies and children, if it was something real, if racism was real, children would come in with it. If there was a true black and white divide, children would come in knowing that. They would know, that person's brown. Inherently. So inherently, that doesn't happen with children. This is something taught. And it's taught because it's another great lie. Divide and conquer, right? Isn't that like the first rule? We're all born naked. And we all come out of a mother. And all mothers can give birth to all races. And so I'm mentioning this because from my experience, I have seen that all women are oppressed, depending on where you're at in the world. And that they are part of this program as far as like how to continue keeping us from seeing each other and listening to each other, supporting each other. But it's highly it's just something I feel like it needs to be seen and looked at, and that yes, we need men to kind of see what's going on and be okay with taking on that part that was protector, provider, and confidant, right? Confidant. And uplifts, sisters, mothers, daughters. Not just be there. That's awesome, because that's rare, but that's what it's supposed to be like, right? Like, mothers don't get these big pats on their backs because they do all this stuff for their kids and what they also do outside of for their kids. And moms need a break. And so I think it would be fair to ask for like guys who have the opportunity, may not have any children, or just not in a position to be around their own children, bring a break to mothers, in the indigenous areas. And I actually think in all areas it provides some type of chaperone, some type of chaperone help protect the women that don't have some guy there to make sure that they're okay. Chaperones and or escorts, so to speak. Someone to just be there with you while you're traveling, at certain rest stops. Just be like a secret warrior, right? Watching over the women to protect them. That'd be cool. Well, I'm about out of time, so I'm going to say thanks for listening and watching. May you and your family and the land around you, your animals and plants, be supported and uplifted. And may the light of the great Creator find his way into your heart and your lives. Ashayo. So smote be.